Peace be upon you, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the continuation of the prophetic timeline. I'm going to discuss first the start of Revelation. So Muhammad, peace be upon him, was one of those who did not accept idol worshipping and did not accept the injustice in the society. So him and others used to go to the mountains around Mecca and contemplate in seclusion and worship God and feed the poor and so on. So in one of those nights, during the month of Ramadan, the lunar month in the Arabic calendar, he received the first revelation. The angel Gabriel came to him and squeezed him so hard and then let him go and said, read. Muhammad, of course, is terrified. And then he said, I can't read. I don't read, because he was illiterate. But then he did the same thing again and squeezed him and let him go. And then the third time, he actually told him what he's supposed to read. And so he said the first revelations, which are chapter 96 on the Quran and verses 1 to 6. Read in the name of your Lord, who created basically humans from a clinging form. Read, your God is basically the most bountiful. He taught humans by the pen, and he taught them what they did not know. So Muhammad, of course, he didn't know what's happening, and he thought he was going crazy. So he came down, running down the hill, went to his wife, said, cover me, cover me. She comforted him after she heard what he told her, and she said that no, God will not do this to you. You are the one who's honest, who takes care of people, and so on. So she calmed him down and took him to her cousin, who most reports say he was a Christian, or some reports is a Abrahamic faith, who was knowledgeable of the scriptures. So he told him that your experience is the same experience that Moses had, and the same angel and things. So basically he told him that he is going to be the prophet. So after this first revelation, which happened in 610, more revelations came, and but the prophet only chose to deliver these revelations to his family and close friends. This is what God basically commanded him to do. And so they went through a period of 3 years, which is called the period of this secret call, where he would get the wahi, which is the divine inspiration, and he would discuss it with his friends. They would pray in seclusion, but they were not going to go public. So basically he had 30 to 40 Muslims only during this 3-year period. After that, he received a command from God to make this a public call. So he did, and he went to a small, hill, and he stood there and called all the clans of Quraysh, and then he said, if I tell you there's an army coming behind the hill to attack you, would you believe me? And they said yes. And he said, well, I am telling you, I am a messenger from the one God, who is warning you that all what you're doing is, of course, not appropriate. And there's a day of judgment that you're going to answer to all of these injustices, and so on. And so he delivered the message. And from that point on, he would just go to any gathering, meet people, pray in public at the Kaaba, and so on. So that started a whole new dynamics between him and the people, and between Muslims and the rest of the society. Now, I want to discuss a little bit about this change that happened now when he went public with his call for the worship of the one God. Now, so we have God's words, which are, sent through the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, peace be upon him, and he will deliver them to the people, explain them, live them, practice them, him and the people, transforming their lives. And so basically he had very few Muslims at that time who were from rich or powerful families. He had mostly people who were slaves, who were weak. Those are the people who became Muslims, because he was calling for equality, he was calling for justice, and all these kind of things. So it was basically a social restructuring of the society. And that was not even enough, because he was also calling now the pilgrims. So he was not just changing the structure of the society, he was also hitting Quraysh in the pocket, because he was telling the pilgrims who are coming to worship their 360 gods that there's only one God, and, telling them the whole thing about the belief system. And so that was bad. Of course, Quraysh did not like that. And of course, these people are going to go back to their own cities, and they're going to spread what Muhammad is saying. And then everybody's going to be mocking Quraysh because they can't stop this person. Now, is Muhammad the first one? How did Quraysh react to Muhammad? Was he the first one who started calling people, to leave the idols and stop worshipping idols? He wasn't. Quraysh was used to getting every once in a while individuals who will come and discourage people from worshipping the idols and so on. But usually what happens is that people don't listen to them, and then they end up isolating themselves from the rest of the people. Some individuals, they called everybody, they mocked the idols and so on. So what Quraysh would do at that time is they would threaten them. They don't listen, they would hurt them, then they would expel them if they're not listening from the city. And so this is basically, now Muhammad is challenging them. So they actually fought back at all fronts. In terms of, for example, looking at God's words, they debated what Muhammad brought. They debated the source. They had propaganda against Muhammad. They insulted him, they badmouthed him and said he's a sorcerer to the pilgrims so that they don't listen to him. They also, the people that became Muslims, they tortured them. They started torturing them. Now, because of the tribalism and the collectivist culture, if somebody has a strong, somebody has his back, it comes from a strong tribe or powerful tribe or clan, then it is hard to hurt that person. So basically all the heads of the tribe, of the clans, started basically torturing the ones who are at the lower end of the cultural scale, and all kinds of horrible tortures. They could not torture Muhammad because, if you remember, his uncle Abu Talib, who did not become a Muslim, but he told Muhammad that I will always have your back, and you can go ahead and call for this faith if you feel so strongly about it. And he was a very respectable, powerful person, although he wasn't rich. And so they could not really hurt him. His other uncles who did not become Muslim started throwing things on him, and on his way put thorns and stuff, and there was a report that people tried to kill him. But it was mostly, the trouble was for the other believers. So that was a problem. And also for the pilgrims, the Quraysh started having other activities. They brought in singers, they brought in storytellers, so that they distract people and so they don't go and listen to Muhammad. And as well, they actually went to Abu Talib, his uncle, and they threatened, they bribed, they even told him, we'll give you another, such a good young man, and just give us Muhammad. They also bribed Muhammad, we'll give you money, we'll make you a king over us, and so on. But he still also refused. So these are some of the techniques and some of the dynamics that was going around. But the problem was that they were torturing his followers. And so after 2 years of the public calling, Muhammad said, he told some of his followers to migrate to Abyssinia, that there was a Christian king who was fair. His name was Negus, and that he will provide a safe haven for them. So they had two kinds of migrations. The second one was about 100 people, but Quraysh at this time, they were very aware of what's happening, so they sent people following them to get them back. So they gave the king some presents and gifts, and they asked for their kinsmen back. So Negus heard both stories and heard from the Muslims how they were worshipping idols and how they were persecuting the weak and all of that, and then Muhammad, that they knew him, he was of a good lineage, he was trustworthy, and then he told them all these, how to change their life and worship the one God, and so on. And so Negus said, he returned the gifts, and he said, I am not returning them with you, and they can stay here as long as they want. And so that did not work for Quraysh. And so thank you again for listening. And if you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. And God bless and take care.